Welcome into the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with Charles and I. We're going to talk about long-term care this week, Charles. We're going to get into this conversation a little bit about, there's an article from Investment News. I want to make sure I have the right one here. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. I want to talk a little bit about that. And there's just kind of like, what's the average? Are we average when it comes to paying for long-term care? What's the conversation piece there, right? Nobody wants to be average, but I mean, I think sometimes there's places where maybe average is good. I don't know. Anyway, how are you?
We're well. It's hot here. We're recording this. This is Arizona, and unfortunately, it's still hot.
Yeah. Well, it's North Carolina, and it's wet here because you've seen it on the news. It's bad. It's bad in the western part of the state. So all the prayers and all the best for those folks there. And if you can help, please go check out some places and donate. And so it's not good.
No.
In places like Asheville. So. But yeah, I mean, so let's talk about today's conversation. Unfortunately, I know that's a departure from that unfortunate somber bit, but look, long-term care has a ton of confusion and fear around it. Not just the mortality thing, Charles, but the cost factor.
That's, I think, the biggest state of confusion. I mean, there's not enough definitive information that's out there that is believed by a lot of people, and I don't know if they all think it's a conspiracy theory or not. That's really never going to happen to me. Well, everybody thinks that all the time, that it's really never going to happen to me. But and this is from a year ago, an Investment News article, and I kept this just because it's like, okay, these are the facts of what people think it is, and then what really it is to a great degree. And the reason that I'm trusting the statistics from this is it comes from the Life Insurance Marketing and Research Association. These are the people in the insurance world that live and breathe this stuff, and the statistics that surround all of that stuff. In May of 2023, 18% of the adults said they owned long-term care, including 27% of millennials say they have long-term care. They don't. That's not. If it was true, it would be great, but that's not what it is. They're confusing it with disability insurance, maybe through work, or they think it's health insurance, and it's not.
Okay.
So it's interesting what people perceive it to be versus the reality of what it really is, and I think that's one of the things that I've read several things where, like 15 or 20% of the people have it. The reality is about 3% of people have real long-term care insurance of some kind.
Really?
Yeah, this comes from the research people in the insurance world. So I believe
3%, even though 15 to 20 feel like they have it.
Yeah. So there
definitely is a disconnect.
Totally. And they've just got insurance mixed up with some other kind of insurance, and they're thinking, well, this will do that. It's like a lot of people think,
I have life insurance, so therefore I have long-term care insurance or something, right? And it's like, unfortunately, they're completely different.
Or the other big one, and it's not part of this study, but the other big one is people will say, well, Medicare will pay for it. No, it won't.
Right.
It doesn't. Medicaid means you don't have any money.
Yeah, you've got to be destitute at that point.
Pretty much. So it's just 3 out of 4 people, virtually 3 out of 4 people are going to need some kind of long-term care in their lifetime. So, the reality is, I don't want to just beat the long-term care thing to death, so to speak. But when you don't know what you don't know, that's really scary.
I was just talking with a former Comptroller General of the U.S., David Walker, and we were talking the other day about the astronomical national debt. And that people
that's his hot button.
They tune it out, and we shut it down as general Americans because it's so mind-bogglingly astronomical that we're like, screw it. I mean, I just can't even deal with that. I've got to figure out how to eat.
Incomprehensible.
I got to figure out how to take care of my family. I got to figure out how to just do my job. And I feel like long-term care is that same animal
kind of a thing.
I gotta live. I gotta deal with this. I can't even fathom dealing with long-term care right now, right?
And the biggest difference, and we've been saying this for a long time, is that there are new long-term care policies that are out there that aren't what they used to be. It used to be use it or lose it. You buy it, it's like car insurance. If you never get in an accident and need to have anything repaired, you just spin out the premium. Yeah. The new stuff is asset-based. So you own the asset. If you need to use it, the asset's there to use for long-term care. If you don't need it at all, or you don't use all of it,
Right.
it passes on to the beneficiaries because it is an insurance solution. So
Gotcha.
it's new, it's different. People need to be aware of it because, as we just said, they think it's something that it's not, and it's not something they think it is.
Well, let's share some of this average conversation. So, right, some of this averageness here.
Okay.
Average length of long-term care is 3.7 years for women and 2.2 for men.
That's average.
Interesting.
I like the average thing because I always, if you stand in, you're in a room full of people and somebody's giving a speech and they say, raise your hand if you think you're above average. Everybody raises their hand, which is statistically impossible.
And that means you're all average. Yeah.
Which means, basically, yeah. To some degree. So, yeah.
Well, except for you and I. Other than that, everyone, yeah. But
anybody that's been listening or watching on any of this stuff just totally gets it already. So I'm not worried about it.
There you go. Exactly. So I was kind of surprised that men have a shorter stay in long-term care. But I'm wondering then, as I say this, is it because we pass?
I've always said, I don't know, women love us to death. and so
bacon.
We go. They're tougher.
Yeah,
they gave birth. They gave birth to people. They can live longer.
Amen.
Totally.
Yep.
I know, and for sure, that's Well, she's.
I think she'd take you out in a wrestling match. So, I think she's got you.
I'll let her. I'll make sure she watches this portion. We'll see. Okay. So
anyway,
if we're not average.
Okay.
And this is some, these are some numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, so I like them. But they tell the story too. For 2.2 years for men, average stay. What about the longest one ever? And these stats and numbers come from several insurance companies that went on and said, okay, let's look at how long we actually paid for some of these things over the years.
Yeah.
For a man, there's a couple of numbers here. A man, 14 years and 2 months.
In long-term care.
Long-term care, being he had insurance, and the insurance company was paying for the cost.
Yeah.
$2.2 million. Yeah. There's another one that was even longer, 19 years and 3 months, but it was only at another 2.2, a little bit less than the first one.
Only 2.2?
Just over 2 million. So
yeah,
that happens.
So if you don't have a long-term care insurance and you are in an event and you are longer than a few years, you're talking big, costly dollars here. That's the point.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Easily. Yeah.
Women, it's a little different.
Okay.
Women, again, live longer, 16 years and 16 and a half years. $2.3 million was the longest one from one insurance company.
Yep.
A little bit longer, it's in the ballpark of the money's in the ballpark of the same thing.
Yeah.
And 15 years and 4 months for a $2.6 million claim.
So here's the crux, Charles. So people go, long-term care insurance, geez, it's freaking expensive, right? I can't afford this monthly payment or whatever. But then you look at these numbers and you $2 million, $3 million, and that, granted, I know that's a long period. That's some of the longer stays. But even at a couple $100,000, you think, well, I can't afford that either. So again, kind of like the national debt, we just kind of shut down instead of dealing with it. And that's how you end up on Medicaid and in a state-ran facility. No one wants that.
No, you don't. You really don't. It's not like they're out there to be evil about it. It's just that
they're broke too.
It is what you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Not a great experience.
So that all said, you mentioned things have changed. It's not your daddy's Oldsmobile. You mentioned the cars. So we'll use that commercial. We'll use that old, it's not your daddy's Oldsmobile thing. Well, insurance has changed in that way. So there are some things worth looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And the biggest idea is you can get traditional long-term care, which is fine. It's just most things now, at least the way we look at it, is you own the asset. The asset can provide. You can take a dollar's worth of care and get it for 50 cents on the dollar because you've got enough money to double your coverage, kind of thing. And again, if you never need it, it's going to pass to the kids or the grandkids or the charities or the causes or whatever it is you want because it's just an insurance product.
Okay.
So it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
To us, for sure.
So I guess it's a takeaway when you're sitting down with a financial professional and maybe one of the things you're going to steer clear of, right, is, I'm not going to talk about long-term care insurance when we get there.
Yeah.
Maybe you just need to stop that, right? And just go, hey, look.
We do. I mean, we just, it's the biggest elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. They just don't want to talk about it because
Yeah, we all come in with it. Am I going to have enough to be okay? That's why we first come in to see an advisor.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Am I going to run? Do I have more money than the time, or more time than money?
So then if you don't talk about the fact that, okay, great. You have enough money. You're not going to run out. We established that. We solved the math problem of, retirement. But what happens if you go into a long-term care event? And if 2 out of 3 people are doing it, and Charles, you're interviewing a couple, guess what? There's 3 people in that room.
Yeah.
One of you is getting it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So it's the reality that, again, if let's just run and hide and ignore it. And that's human nature. I know we get it.
I get it. Yeah.
And so we have people that will show them the real reasons why they need to seriously consider. Doesn't mean they have to do it, but we will ask them to sign a disclaimer at the end of this if they choose not to do it, saying, we told you that you really should, but it's your money, it's your life, it's your responsibility to make your own decisions, but don't hold me liable in the future.
If you're not willing to talk about it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll put a link up to the article in this week's show descriptions, also as how to get in touch with Charles and Sherry if you'd like to sit down and talk about it. And you don't have to be in the Arizona area. You can talk to them from wherever you are.
That's for sure.
If you're checking out the YouTube podcast here, then just give them a click, click the link and follow the information there. Have a conversation. We'll do an email question here, Charles, and we'll wrap it up this week.
Cool.
You guys get emails in all the time, so it's always kind of good to share information with folks who might be going through a similar thing. So Ruth had sent one in. She's down in your area, in the Phoenix area.
Yep.
She said, my husband isn't great with money, so I pay all the bills and handle all the decisions with our retirement accounts. As we get closer to retirement, I'm starting to wonder if I should get him involved. What do you think? And the answer is a big fat yes, right? I mean, he needs them.
Oh, yeah. Get it. Don't force him.
Right.
Encourage him to help. Ask him what he would like. There's all these things you could be doing.
Yeah.
Which one of these looks like it would be the most interesting for you to learn a little bit about? Don't let him pick the topic. Let him pick the category, the expense.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Let him review the next time you have homeowners insurance that you need to put up. Compare this for me. Show me. Yeah. Tell me how you would look at this.
I like that. That's much better. That's less volatile than mine. Mine was going to be, my wife would say, I will make you your favorite dinner, and then I'm going to talk to you about something, and I can either hit you with the skillet, or I can make it, or you can enjoy it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Which one do you want? So
you get to pick. You do get a choice, but you get to pick. Yeah,
that's right.
That's so, and it's dividing and conquering. Sometimes, we see it all the time where the husband, let's just say in a typical scenario, I'll make this quick, is usually older and has probably been the person that has had the financial connections, the financial people that his buddies. This is an over-exaggeration, but it's the reality. We see it all the time. Yeah. And the wife hasn't had that. Well, the odds are that husband's going to die before mom does. So mom runs the house. She's
exactly.
the CEO of the household, but she doesn't have the connections to the other financial people. So we just want to, it's really important to understand human nature.
And to your point, it's not always the case, because obviously this is the opposite for Ruth, so it's like, look, both people need to, we'll finish with this. I like to use my car analogy. And although, sometimes you see people driving nowadays and you think, okay, maybe this statement doesn't hold true, but all of us basically know how a car works. We know how to put gas in it, get behind the wheel and drive it. But most of us do not want to know how to take the combustion engine apart and put it back together again.
No.
And so I think both people at least need to know how to handle the financial situation. Just like you would driving a car, you both need to know the basics. And then that way, if something happens to one of you, you're not totally caught behind the 8 ball when the other does pass or goes into a long-term care event like we talked about.
Or who to go ask the questions of.
Exactly. So if you don't want to do it, at least know who you can pick up the phone and call, or who you can go on, and schedule an appointment and chat with. So with that, we'll get up out of here this week. Thanks for checking out Financial Choices Matter with Charles Scott and myself as we talk about these important topics. Do yourself and your retirement a favor. Reach out to Charles and Sherry and have a conversation on long-term care should you need to, or even if you don't think you need to. It may be worthwhile to still have that chat. Don't forget to subscribe.
Learn something new.
Learn something, exactly. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Subscribe to the channel so you can continue to learn stuff, and we'll see you on future episodes of Financial Choices Matter with Charles Scott.
Ready to learn more? Get a complimentary review of your retirement landscape today. Reach out to Charles and Sherry at Pelleton Capital. Don't wait and let time pass you by. Sit down and build a rock-solid strategy that keeps the focus on you and your family. Visit Pelleton Capital or click the link in the show description. And don't forget to subscribe to Financial Choices Matter on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Financial planning and investment advisory services are provided by Pelleton Capital Management Limited, a state-registered investment advisor. Past performance is not indicative of future results. No one should assume the information presented here serves as a receipt of or substitute for personalized individual advice provided by Pelleton Capital Management. For more information, visit www.pelletoncapital.com.